seated. Do you ever notice how things look and feel different in the dark? For example, during our lock-in, the youth walked the Stations of the Cross in the dark. Now, I have walked these exact stations before quite a few times. I thought I would easily remember them. I didn't even bother bringing my own flashlight. Lucky for me, my husband had my back, as always, because we did need a light, not only to read the prayers at each station, but also to find the next station, as it turned out. Once, it looked like we had to return all the way to the first station because the gate was locked. It was nighttime, and I didn't bring the key. But Matt, our police officer, who was here to keep us safe during the prayer vigil as well, saw us and opened it for us. We had a good time, but there were detours and confusion. It was dark. There are many stories about the dark, like this one, about a man who was found guilty of a crime and sentenced to spend the night in a prison cell with a snake. If he survived, he would be set free the next morning. He was shoved into the dark room, and he heard the locked door shut behind him. Through a window came just a bit of silver moonlight, which he used desperately to make out the snake's whereabouts. Once he saw it coiled up in a corner, he slowly and carefully went to the opposite corner and sat down, never taking his eyes off the snake. The whole night he barely blinked, breathing shallow, his whole body tight with tension. When sunlight at long last started to appear through the windows, he was exhilarated. He made it. Just as he hears the door open, enough light shines through to reach the corner where the snake spent the night. What if the snake got to him at the last moment? And then the man finally sees the snake in the full sunlight. It's a rope. His jailers had made good use of the darkness. He uselessly spent the night in terror and feared for his life, mistaking a harmless rope for a life-threatening enemy because it was dark. In this service, the great vigil of Easter is held in the dark, during the night, and we begin it by lighting once again a new fire to light the Paschal candle, and from it, pass the light of Christ to one another. Because this is the night when Christ gave his light to all creation. This is the night when Christ broke the bonds of death and hell, as it says in the Exalted. Now, the term hell has been influenced, right? It has been influenced overwhelmingly by a certain Dante and his Inferno issues. It automatically brings to mind a place of fire and brimstone, lava lakes filled with agonizing souls. We think of hell as a place with so much fire, it is always light enough to see the suffering. But before Dante, hell, Inferos, Hades, Sheol, the afterlife, whatever name it was given, it was thought of as a place of cold darkness, a sort of gloomy and shadowy holding cell where good and people wandered in a dark wasteland, awaiting salvation, awaiting light. Adam and Eve are here, as is Abraham and Sarah. This is the night when Christ broke the bonds of death and hell. This is the night that Jesus descended into hell, broke the gates, opened the chains, and pulled all of God's creation, pulled Adam and Eve and Abraham and Sarah, saints and sinners, and you and me, out of darkness and into the light. hell has been undone. To celebrate this night is maybe one of the most important things we can do in our life, because the undoing of hell is also the undoing of our portrayal of God and God's judgment as punitive. If hell ever was a punishment from God, hell's destruction should make clear to us that salvation really is universal, that all are saved, saints and sinners, doubters, unbelievers, scoffers, and even those who try to gatekeep salvation from others. And we know this, don't we, deep down? Didn't we just hear that God called all of creation good, indeed very good? God created the universe. Salvation is only divine when it is universal. It is as abundant and unending as God. But believing in an abundance of any kind is really hard for us. We live in a world driven by the paradigm of scarcity and competition. We are used to having winners and losers, and we like to keep scores. And for the purposes of scorekeeping, a punitive, lowercase g God with an amazing surveillance system and the ultimate punishment of hell is very, very useful. But it is not divine. Scarcity and competition, keeping scores, these are human concepts. And that is why celebrating this night is so important. This is the night when Christ broke the bonds of death and hell. This is the night when, by the light of Christ, we could finally see that we are all of us God's creation, and that in all God's creation, there is no darkness that the light of salvation does not reach. This is the night when the worst thing we can think of, death and all it implies, died itself. Hell is dead. This is the night when Christ broke the bonds of death and hell, not only for himself, but for all and always. Tonight, we proclaim the risen Christ, risen from death and hell. We proclaim this reality for the whole of creation. And this doesn't deny the existence of darkness. It does not take away the confusion or terror of darkness. We can still lose our way in the dark, even when we are walking the stations of the cross. But we can also bring a light to those lost in the darkness. There will still be gates we don't have the keys to, but we can also open a gate for our neighbor. We can mistake something harmless for something as dangerous and deadly as a snake. And we can try to see it by the light of Christ until we see its true and good nature. When we proclaim Christ risen this night, when we turned all the lights on and we rang in Easter, we rang it in loud. We let the sound of our bells fill the air with light. We rang it loud for the victory of Jesus over death and hell. We rang it loud for ourselves, for all the ones we love, for everyone we don't know. And when we rang it for those who hurt us, I hope you rang those bells even louder, because their salvation is our salvation. I hope this Easter will ring in your hearts and minds and souls and sing with joy in God's victory for all of us. Amen.